Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to another episode of Deen Talk. I'm your host, Joshua Salaam, and we're just so happy to have you back. And you know what? The term unapologetically Muslim is familiar. It's a familiar slogan borrowed from the common phrase in the Black Lives Matter movement. And if you're not familiar with the Black Lives Matter movement, we're going to have a different show for that. That they had a term, unapologetically black. That's right. Many of the strategies and the messaging and the slogans that Muslim activists are using today came from the civil rights era. And you may recall that on one of our previous episodes, we described Muslim women who were on the front lines of all the struggles going on in America, the pressing issues. They were unapologetically Muslimah. That was the show. So tune into your Facebook and go check it out. Well, on today's show, we want to get to the heart of what it means to be unapologetically Muslim. What does that mean? To you, to the guests, to the people sitting there? The America of today is becoming more Islamophobic. The hostility against Muslims is just increasing. So today, we're going to discuss how Muslims are striving to manage their own Islam, to manage their own fears, to manage the fears of other Americans, all while remaining steadfast and keeping their Islam unapologetically. So in the public spaces of today, how do we do that? How does a Muslim be unapologetically Muslim and respect these other fears? We're going to talk about all that and more and tackle these issues, so don't go anywhere. We'll be right back with Deen Talk. Welcome back to Deen Talk, and I'm your host, Joshua Salaam. It's a fact that during the 2016 election and after the election, violence against Muslims and other ethnic and religious groups skyrocketed. It went way up. Just watch the news, watch the media. And in December 2015, the FBI released their statistics on the number of hate crimes committed that year. And they said that hate crimes against Muslims had increased by 67%. That is just crazy. 67%? And incidents against Muslim women wearing the headscarf, the hijab, has also increased. With those types of statistics in an increasingly hostile environment, how are Muslims supposed to function? How are we going to operate in this brave new world? I don't know. That's why I'm asking you. And that's why I brought these guests here to talk about it. Now, a brave new world for American Muslims. That's the overarching, the umbrella topic that we're going to be talking about today. And under that, we will be having a number of discussions. The first discussion we will start with today is how Muslims remain steadfast and practice their faith in public spaces. Okay, so I want you to kind of get your mind right, get with us, and be here with us. Now, to my right, I have Imam Shuaib Khan. Imam Shuaib is part of the All Dulles Area Muslim Society. It's the Adams Center. Now, he came as a refugee. He's got an amazing story. And that was in 2001. And he has been serving the community since 2008. Now, if you guys haven't heard Shuaib speak, he's an excellent public speaker. He's got stuff on YouTube, so check him out. Now, to his right, we have Abdullah Baig. Now, you might have seen him on the show before. He's a familiar face on Deen Talk, and he's also memorized the Quran and a bunch of other stuff. And he's born and bred as an American Muslim activist. He's from Northern Virginia, although he might travel around the world. You might see him in different places. He's a youth leader. He goes to different communities. He discusses youth involvement and opportunities, and he wants to, help provide a much-needed perspective on youth leadership. Now, you might have seen him as a co-host on our Water is Life stories when he went down to Standing Rock in the freezing cold. He couldn't even turn on the camera, and that documentary series. And I think that says a lot about, what he's trying to do in our community. Now, to my left, we have the Reverend Kristen McBrayer. And she's a senior minister at the Emmaus United Church of Christ in Vienna, Virginia. Very nice area. She arrived there in January of 2016, and after 5 years serving as the senior minister of Bethel United Church of Christ in Arlington, Virginia. The Emmaus United Church of Christ and Reverend McBrayer are passionate about increasing interfaith understanding and partnerships, and that's why we brought her to the show. And last May and again in January, Emmaus hosted over 150 people for 2 interfaith services. One in the wake of the Pulse nightclub shooting. It was a horrible incident you guys probably remember. That was in Orlando, Florida. and the second leading up to the presidential inauguration. Now, Reverend McBrayer, she hopes to do this interfaith work, and she's discovering places of shared beliefs and potential partnerships. And we liked her resume, and we liked her, and we hope that you enjoy her. And she wants to create this world where we can all, live together peacefully, and just a place for all people. And that's a beautiful thing, and thank you for coming. And last but not least, we have Abiha Bilgrami. Yes. I got it. Now, she is an amazing guest. I'm going to save some of her introduction. Or should I tell the audience now? Yeah. All right, I'll tell the audience now. Abiha is on the steering committee of DC Justice for Muslims Coalition. She is a member of the American Muslim Women's Policy Forum, and she's involved with local community organizing, helping the community get ready to deal with some of these challenges, even like the ones that we're dealing with now. So I want to welcome everyone. This is a full show. Shuaib, help me out here. Abdullah, the Reverend Kristen. Can I call you Reverend Kristen?
Absolutely.
And Abiha. Yes. Welcome, everybody.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you. We're glad to be here.
So, unapologetically Muslim. Now, that can come across in a couple of ways, right? It can come across as I'm confident, I'm Muslim and I'm not going to apologize. Or depending on the position of the other person, it could come across as aggressive, And I want to know, before we get into it too much, when you hear this term, unapologetically Muslim, what does it mean to you? And for you, Reverend, you can either talk on that, and from your perspective, if somebody says, well, I'm Muslim unapologetically, what do you hear? What do you feel? And also, from your own religious tradition. But let's start with you, Abdullah. What does it mean to you?
What it means to me, well, first of all, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, in the name of God, the most gracious, the most merciful. What it means for me to be unapologetically Muslim is to just keep up the tradition of my faith, even if there may be naysayers out there, people who would rather try to reform my faith. Mm-hmm. There's an interesting perspective and a spectrum of people who claim to be Muslim, of course, and we can't say they're not or whatever it is, but people who claim to be Muslim, but they're on opposite sides of the spectrum. You have some people who are extremely conservative, and then there are people who are, reformists, modern reformists. Interestingly, both sides are trying to take hold of the narrative and, use it in their own way. And unfortunately, to majority of Muslims who practice Islam moderately, with the tradition in mind, with the pure prophetic tradition in mind, to them, they sort of get left on the back burner because these people are taking control of the narrative, or they get invited to the media because, for example, in some progressive forms of media, they would rather invite the person who says, no, Islam needs some, dire reform. Or they would rather, or other forms of media would rather invite the extremist, I guess you could say, who says no, Islam, needs to indigenize itself in America and take control of the narrative and take control of the power structure, right? And both are sort of preposterous. But to me,
I capture at the very beginning you said holding fast to my religious tradition.
Holding fast to the religious tradition. That means for me, the Quran and the Sunnah, and that's what I need.
And I'm going to get back to that because you mentioned some terms of conservative and reformist and moderate, and all these are going to come out in this discussion. Abiha, when I say unapologetically Muslim or Muslimah in your case, what does it mean to you? What are you hearing?
So it was the night of the election.
Oh, I like the way you start out.
2 a.m. I looked at my phone and I realized that the winner, it was pretty clear who was going to win. I cried. I woke up the next morning, cried some more, and I have never, ever felt as alone, scared, terrified, terrified. Like, I was shaking. I had to call my mom. She's back in California. And I was like, I'm scared. I don't want to leave the home, like my apartment. She said, Abiha, you live in DC. You're safe. But the reason I was scared was for Muslims who might not live in a safe, in a bubble like DC, who might be in areas where that victory emboldened some deep-lying bigotry and how it would affect them. And so I disconnected from social media and I went under a metaphorical rock, also my blanket. I did come out when I realized that I am a proud Muslimah. And I am not going to get scared or back down. I believe in my belief, and I believe in Allah, and I am going to be unapologetic and I'm going to stand up. I'm going to fight. Because I don't really know how to fight, but I am going to raise my voice and do something about this.
Very interesting. So the thing that stands out to me is when I said, what does it mean to be unapologetically Muslim? There was a memory that came before you got into the part where you gained the confidence. The memory started in the kind of traumatic situation, 2 o'clock in the morning, and all right, very interesting. Shuaib, because you know I'm saving the best for last, right? So when we say unapologetically Muslim, what's coming to mind?
The story of the prophets.
Okay. Prophets.
Prophets.
So, okay.
All of them. Every one of them who came with the message of God, trying to practice and teach the truth, they're all opposed by people. And we see their struggles, you know, in the Quran, in the different books that came before it, that God highlights. Every time you're trying to stand up for the truth, for justice, for peace, you're going to have opposition. And if you look at the story of the Prophet Muhammad, one of his companions, you know, Umar, peace be upon him, when he accepted Islam, you know, it was in the time where Muslims were the minority, they were being persecuted, and Umar was a tough guy, so people were kind of scared of him from the beginning. But he noticed that all his companions are being beaten up, and he's not getting any kind of ill treatment. So he said, what can I do? The Prophet said, you know, just accept it, it's good. And he said, no, I don't want to be like this. I want whatever they're feeling, I want to feel that. So he went out, and there was this media guy. He said, hey, I've become Muslim. And the guy said, don't tell anybody. The guy said, okay. And he turned around and said, hey guys, Umar has become Muslim. And a crowd gathered around him, and they started fighting him, and they beat him up. And that to me is unapologetically Muslim. Like he saw the situation. He was, you know, they were being persecuted, but he wanted to be known for who he is. And he didn't want to change his name or you know, change the way he looks just because there are people who are opposing, you know, the religion that I'm following. And of course, you know, every prophet went through similar challenges, and so I think it's part of life. I don't think it's anything new, but it's been, you know, at our age now, it's been intensified because of what just happened recently. But it's history repeating itself, and we have to be firm.
Okay. See, another image that came to mind: unapologetic Muslims fight, boom, a beat down, and so
Or get beaten.
Or get beaten, right? So these are different things, and now we're going to hear an interesting perspective from Reverend Kristen. When somebody says, "I'm Muslim and I'm not apologizing for it. I'm unapologetically Muslim," what are you feeling? What are you thinking?
In hearing the different stories, I think the first piece that I heard from you in the introduction was about how this is a response to some of what's happening in our country. And so in that context, what I feel is a little bit of sorrow that we've come to this place where somebody would have to feel like they really have to defend who they are and their faith because they're under attack. And I don't want to be in a place where anybody for any practice of religion is under attack, but that's where we are. And so, you know, that's what I hear from our Muslim brothers and sisters, and it makes me very sad that that's where we are in our country. And but I also respect and have a lot of I'm grateful for people being willing to say, I'm going to teach you about my faith and about my tradition so that we can learn from each other. So that some of those places where I think fear comes from, I don't always understand it, but are misunderstandings and lack of knowledge. And so people that are willing to say, I'm unapologetically Muslim and I'm here to help explain, helps open up, I hope, so that our future will be different. But my first response is, how can we be in a place where we have to be unapologetically? Because it sounds like it's what you're talking about, that need to defend. And we should be able to practice whatever religion we want to practice openly and honestly.
You want to say something?
Yeah, I just realized the phrase unapologetically Muslim comes from a place of needing to apologize for it. And we're saying, oh no, I'm unapologetic. We should not have to apologize for what we believe in, especially considering that Islam has been a fabric of this country since the very beginning, and that's something that needs to be talked about. And once that's broken down, maybe.
So we're gonna get real. This in the next segment, I'm gonna introduce something right now, but in the next segment, we're gonna dissect this and one particular other thing in the next section. I'm gonna tell you a story. There were some imams that were about to board a plane. You guys know this story. It's It's happened many times. And the time for prayer came in, so they said, okay, let's pray before we go on the airplane. And so they went to a section of the airport, maybe around some chairs, a seating area where not too many people were, and they prayed. Now, because of that perception of what that looks like to other people and what that means to other people, and they see these people praying, and they look Muslim, and they're about to get onto our plane. What was that? Their last prayer? Why were they praying? And it made the other passengers feel so uncomfortable that they complained to the pilot, and they kicked them off the plane. Right? That's happened multiple times. So I was on an airplane recently, and I needed to pray. I didn't get a chance to pray. Maybe as usual, I was running late for my flight or whatever. So I decided to pray in my seat. So there was a guy sitting next to me, and I said, "Excuse me, sir." I said, "Just want to let you know, about to make a prayer right now before we take off. Just want to." He said, "Oh, okay." So I made my prayer, modified prayer in the seat, and then afterwards he said something to what you just said. He goes, "You know what? It's a shame that you just had to kind of like say that to me, right?" Now, we're not gonna have time to dissect it now, but I wanted to tell you that story so that when we come back in the next segment, I want you guys to dissect that, because as she said, you may not understand where these fears are coming from, but these fears are real fears. How do you address that? How do you cater to those people's fears as opposed to making people want to jump off the plane? That's not what we're trying to do as Muslims, right? But yet we still want to pray. When we go into the bathroom to make wudu, you putting your foot in the sink or not putting your foot in the sink. Women who want to wear niqab, niqab is the covering of the face, right? When they go into the bank, okay, in America, are they coming in to rob the bank, or they just want to open up a checking account? How do we navigate these things, right? We're going to dissect that. If I said something that have sparked your interest, you better not go anywhere. You better stay tuned and come back to Deen Talk, and we're going to be right back.
This Deen TV video was made possible in part by Islamic Relief USA, working together for a better world, by Guidance Residential, the #1 Islamic home financer in the U.S., and by Recycle Processes Incorporated.